10, 15 minutes and talk a little bit about the entrepreneur. And whose story to start with better than my own. As we sort of progress, hopefully you guys can ask some questions at the end. We'll see if there's some time, but let's jump right into it. So, my name is Boris, and I'm from Russia. So actually, my family moved from Russia when I was 4 years old. They were refugees, so they escaped in the middle of the night, and we went to New York. That's my family. So on the right, that's my sister. Those are my parents. When I was 12 years old, my parents started teaching me how to program. Both of them are programmers. One is at HP, one is at NetApp. They came here with $90, and they turned that into 2 good careers. And the idea behind that, 100%, is how they thought about becoming entrepreneurs in their own right. And so, I grew up in Andover. Anyone here from around Andover? Anyone heard of Andover? All right, we got some Andover people. That's great. All right, so, my first job, McDonald's when I was 14. You got to start somewhere. And I started at McDonald's. And so, here's an interesting thing that I've learned from a lot of entrepreneurs. They have some crazy work ethic, right? Even the dropouts, which we'll get to. So, McDonald's was my first job, but it wasn't as good as my second job, which was way better. So when I was 15, I actually decided to take my grandfather's kiosk. He had a kiosk operation with 5 kiosks. And I told him I think I could take it online. This is when I was 15. And I said, I sort of know how to program, but I don't really, so why don't you give me a little bit of money and I'll figure it out. And so when I was 15, I started trying to put his stuff, and he'd make, your face would go on a mug or on a mouse pad. And I said, let me take it online for, create a first e-commerce site. That didn't work. So when I was 15, I went to the town hall and they wouldn't even let me sign the paper, which was unfortunate. But then I went to college and I had started a web development company in college. And, it's an interesting thing. A lot of people say they started web development companies, especially guys my age, entrepreneurs. And I see them all the time. I actually speak to them all the time. And they say, yeah, I started a web development company. And that's an interesting thing to think about as you're going into college. These younger guys are starting companies making products for other people. And so college was the best 3 years and 1/8 years of my life. Didn't work out the way I thought. So when I was 19, I got a call from this guy's team, Mitt Romney's team, and he said, hey, we've heard about what you guys are doing. I run that web development company, and we want you and your entire team, you must have this giant team, to come out to our Westford office and help us out. We need some help with agile development. They were building products in 24 hours that this mammoth team just couldn't build. And so when I was 19, I had to drop out of college, and I told my parents the next day, and I don't think I heard from them for another 4 or 5 weeks. They weren't thrilled, right? And so you hear this story too, sort of like the dropout story. Why did they do it? And that's an interesting question. I was doing well, computer science. I could have been an engineer. But I figured that at this point in my life, the best thing I could possibly do for myself was get some experience in the real world. And so I dropped out to work for Mitt Romney. And so I told them that I was this 19-year-old guy, didn't have a team, and this is where I was supposed to use my 12-year-old joke, because I actually did look 12. Yeah. So, the Mitt Romney thing, that didn't work out as well as I thought. And I came back to UMass, and this was now 2007. And the question was, what am I going to do? I had dropped out of college. I knew how to program, kind of. The programmers might not agree with me on the team. But when I returned to UMass, I met Jared. And we built this. We built Campus Live. It's the first version. This is 2008. So I am now 25. I started this company with Jared and a few other folks 4 years ago. That is Campus Live version 1. Version 1. So we hacked this thing together, and it actually, believe it or not, with all those advertisements and all those links, it actually went viral in a few schools. So we had the first version going viral. I was, 20 at this point. We were doing just fine, but we started off really small. That's our first office. That's me. She doesn't actually work there. I don't know what she was doing in that picture, but we did on the right. So that was her first office, seriously. And things were looking good. So we had this homepage. It was doing all right. We were selling local advertising. But we decided that we would upgrade. So we got an office, and it was sort of the Trojan horse scenario. We gave him $700, which we didn't have, and said, we'll keep the lights on for a month. And so one of the biggest things that I've seen with entrepreneurs is they burn the bridges behind them. And that, to me, is one of the most important things you can do, because if you've got somewhere to retreat, you're going to inevitably, because this job is hard, right? And so we realized that we couldn't scale that business. We could not scale the local advertising business. We tried to sell. I'm not the best salesperson. We had to work hard at it. We sold maybe 30 or 40 accounts, and we realized we couldn't scale this thing. So as you see, when the first news about Groupon came out, there were about 10 schools. We decided to launch Today's Big Deal on campus. That didn't work either. So we had another pivot. This was the next month when we read about chat roulette in the newspaper. How many of you guys have heard about chat roulette? How many of you have been on chat roulette? Yeah. So believe it or not, asking people to sign on with Facebook to chat roulette doesn't work. We built this beautiful system, and I think we had about 15 users. It was great. But as you see, it was another pivot right there. And then, right as we had about, how much was it, Ryan? $517 in the bank account? We came up on a bright idea. And so I saw some folks say they had reinvented the ad unit. And it seems to me like that's sort of where the industry is going. And so Campus Live, having seen the success of one of our little widgets, if you guys remember the homepage, that raffle widget, it was actually doing pretty well. And so we said, hey, someone might actually pay for this because they're not paying for anything else. And so we started actually working with some regional brands. We stopped going local and we started working with regional brands. You've got Big Y, Ace Tickets, Foxwoods, Peter Pan Bus Lines, all these regional companies that actually said, hey, this is sort of interesting. And so we pivoted again into this bright idea. So Campus Live moved to Boston. We had raised about $400,000. Actually, Highland Capital participated in our angel round, which was great, and a few local angel investors. And we moved to Boston. We grew the team, right? And we were going to develop this great new ad unit. And this is actually a promotion I think we're running now from Microsoft for Walter here. So the big thing for us, and here's what I'm trying to say. There are so many pivots that an entrepreneur can make that other people cannot. And so as Campus Live joined the ad industry, I realized one very, very important thing. And I realized that even more sitting down in the sort of seats right there. I fundamentally believe that the future of advertising is sitting here in this room. Now, maybe not literally, but the profile is here. It's here in the entrepreneurs that we're actually presenting earlier and the ones that you're going to hear about in a few minutes. This is where innovation comes from, guys. That's Bill Gates' team. You guys look a lot better these days. No, but seriously, this is one thing I have learned. We've worked with hundreds of local restaurants, hundreds of local businesses, dozens of regional businesses. Most of the ad agencies in the city, most of the guys here from the agencies don't even know their clients, which is going to be funny later on. But this is where innovation comes from, not from here. And so there's one message, this is literally one message that a 25-year-old guy, not a lot of experience, can tell the people that hold the capital in this room, and there's two types of people in this room that hold the capital. The brands and the agencies, and the venture capitalists, and they invest in two very different ways. But both of them want to do this. Both of them want to get in at the ground floor. So you have to think about this. If you're an agency or a VC, and you want to get in at the ground floor, and you're sitting here giving feedback to these companies, are you going to work with them, or are you going to give them feedback and then make your next ad buy from Facebook or from Google? Right? That's the biggest question. And so I want to leave you guys with one quick message. And I did tweet this. You don't have to be a startup entrepreneur to change the world, but you absolutely have to work with them. Thank you.
Let's open this up for questions for Boris. Come on.
Did I answer everything?
So what's your ad unit today?
Our ad unit, we sell challenges, which is a number of engagements that students, so we work with students on campuses, and we connect them to brands through what we call engagements. And students basically go through these challenges in exchange for incentives, prizes, discounts, and we work with a number of large brands and hundreds of thousands of students. I think I saw someone over here. Shoot.
How'd you get Highland Capital's attention for the initial $400,000?
So the initial $400,000, that's actually a great question because we were lucky in the sense that we actually had some people using Campus Live as a homepage. And so they saw that we had all this traction, but we didn't have a way to make money. And so they actually reached out to us and said, hey, maybe we can help. And I had raised most of the round, and in the last second, they came in and helped us out a little bit more. So actually, a big message here is at first, maybe it's the ad agencies or the brands that can invest before the VCs.
Yeah, Boris, nice presentation.
Thanks.
Supposing you were a VC, what would you do, what value added would you provide aside from cash, VC ad agency, or anybody else that you feel would have helped you as an innovator?
Sure, absolutely. So since we're sitting here at FutureM, I'll answer in the context of marketing and brands and what they can do to help. So you've got chief innovation officers, a lot of these agencies, and I see it, right? And it's starting to grow, and this entire trend is starting to become serious. But I don't see a program at any of these agencies, at least I haven't seen it, where they go out and proactively find people. VCs do this. They actually will go through their referral networks. Not as much as you'd like, but they do it. What I would like to see are the brands and agencies actually go out and actively create programs where they dedicate time, resources, and actual ad buying power to some of these startups, because I can't tell you how many times we've been the 8th brand that didn't make it, or the 8th media buy that didn't make it out of the 7 that they picked. I actually have a story for you. One of our salespeople was working on this massive account. I won't name any names, and it was a $250,000 account. And right towards the end, when we were supposed to hear back if we were going to get recommended, Campus Live's Campus Community Buy got switched up. I think it was for the VMAs. And I was sort of looking at it, and I said, this doesn't make any sense. We do something completely different. But at some level, someone has to get it, right? And I think that's what they can do, start to get it. And I think they are.
Is there any way we can ask one of the ad agency guys to respond to you?
Absolutely. I think there's a few up here. Sir.
So Keith LaFerrier from Arnold, saying that out loud. I would say that we run into trouble when we reach out. We do reach out, actually. Do I need this?
I hear you.
All right. So I'll answer pretty bluntly. We've actually done some trials with reaching out to entrepreneurs and been burned. And so you have to manage that on the media buys. The one thing that you're not mentioning that we should mention is that there are ad agencies that do buys and ad agencies that coordinate buys. And the media companies are very often different partners to the brands than are, bless you, than are the advertisers themselves. So in a marketing situation, we love people like you. We want people like you in the room every day because it only makes us better. Where we fall apart is coordinating that effort with a media firm. So take Arnold and MPG. We're 2 companies that are owned by the same parent company, and yet when we go into a deal, if our client is not supporting both of us or hired both of us, then we have very little influence on the media buys unless we have a very targeted campaign to go against that buy. So it does make it more difficult. But I think from the marketing perspective, we want it. We just need to find a way to make it work. And the media is actually what you're talking about is actually the thing that steps in the way sometimes.
Absolutely, and we've seen that as well. And I think one solution, not the solution, might be to create a program with a track record.
Sure.
Just curious. Hi, my name is Sarah Fay. Just curious to know if your original team hung together throughout all of this, or if you're a completely different team at the end of it.
Actually, the original team hung together. A lot of the folks on our team, we have 18 full-time employees in the North End. Many of them are still from UMass. Many of them are my best friends, so I'm lucky to say that I do work with a huge amount of my best friends. As usual, you'll see some attrition. Some people literally can't sleep in the office for 6 months, which we did. I left that slide out because I didn't know if Greg would make fun of me. But we did sleep in the office for 6 months. Not everyone can do that, but those who could are still on the team, and they're actually sitting 2 slots behind you. Okay,
Thanks, Boris.
you got it.
All right, so next up, first I'd like to invite the agency panel.